as us animal advocates, we've put in the time and effort really to build our infrastructure, our structure to affect politicians, to affect policy. And I feel like that's something that we can do because at the end of the day, everybody loves animals, whether I think most majority of the people do love animals. And it's on us to try to figure out how we can influence our industries and our systems so that we can put stronger protections in for animals. So I think we're still, I'm not an OG activist, but I feel like that's something that needs a lot of work. And I think it'll take years of work to build the infrastructure for us to kind of have more of an impact to pass these laws.
Welcome to the Better Life for Animals podcast, where we amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. Through powerful stories and expert insights, we shine a light on the efforts to rescue, protect, and advocate for animals. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Every follower helps us reach more people and support animal sanctuaries. Enjoy the conversation.
Amit Dhuleshia is an animal advocate, organizer, and campaign strategist focused on building political power for animals through grassroots organizing, public policy, and civic engagement. He is the co-founder of Strategic Action for Animals, SXFA, where he leads efforts to drive systematic change through legislative advocacy, corporate campaigns, and voter engagement. Amit has worked on impactful campaigns at the local, state, and federal levels, including initiatives to expand animal protections, defend farmed animal welfare laws, and mobilize constituents around key issues. He is also the creator of Action for Animals, a mobile platform that empowers individuals to take quick, meaningful action for animals. His work centers on scalable, volunteer-driven advocacy models designed to make effective animal protection accessible to anyone, anywhere. Amit, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Cheryl.
What drew you into animal advocacy, and how did that evolve into a focus on political and legislative change?
It's hard to say actually what led me into it. It was more like a confluence of things. One was I was looking for a career change, meaning like I was in software before, and I was kind of at a point in my life where I was thinking like, how do I do something more than just earn money and try to do something for the betterment of the world, basically. And that was around the time COVID happened. And I spent a lot of time with my dog at that point. And all those like events kind of brought me to kind of looking at what's happening with animals around the world. And I felt like this is the greatest injustice that we have in this world. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of at that point, in 2022, I kind of planned like, okay, I'm going to quit the software industry and kind of just focus my time independently on seeing if I can do something to help animals. So I think it was COVID, spending a lot of time with my dog, and kind of having this urge to do something more than just kind of having a career and earning money. I guess the second part of your question, how did it lead me to this particular, like what I'm doing now with Strategic Action for Animals? When I initially started, I didn't really know anybody. I was vegetarian myself when I had these thoughts. So then 2022, I became vegan. I was lacto-vegetarian, and I've been lacto-vegetarian my whole life. But then I became vegan around 2022 as well. So my first thing was to try to understand what the local community looks like in San Diego in terms of animal advocacy, in terms of veganism. So I just started kind of joining all these meetups, joining kind of anything that revolved around animal advocacy. A lot of it was around outreach. So I did a bunch of outreach, visited a bunch of sanctuaries, and I kind of started feeling like, where my strengths are is not so much the outreach. It's frustrating for me to talk to people and try to convince them to go vegan. My strengths are more around kind of working with people, working with institutions, working and being diplomatic and being able to take meetings. And I felt like we needed more systematic changes to move the needle rather than individual changes. And that's where my strengths also lie. So that's where it kind of got me focused in the area that I'm kind of working. And I'm not like, 2022, it's not that far. So I started in basically 2023. So I haven't been an activist or advocate for a long time. But the goal really is to try to create models that can maybe work in San Diego, that can be replicated around the country. So that's really my goal, to try something different, try to do things that are scalable, low cost, that maybe we can replicate and that are kind of not centrally organized, because what I've find is that like the larger the organization, there's always controversy with the organization, something goes wrong. Um, and I think the advantage that we have is that we have a lot of people that are passionate about animal advocacy. So we need to try to figure out locally how to kind of activate them. And a lot of people want to help, they just don't know how to help, and they can't help all the time, right? Basically. So that's kind of gave you a long answer to it, but that's kind of really what my focus, and I'm still learning. So I'm trying to figure out what are the models that are going to work, and then see if other people want to replicate them.
Sounds like you've taken your skill set and put them into action. And, so it's a wonderful example, in my view, of figuring out your lane. We all have something to contribute. And as you said, we're all passionate about it, but we don't all know what to do. We'll talk about your app in a minute, but I'm a huge fan of that. And so thank you for putting that out there. It's a way for all of us to take political action. And I want to talk about this. You emphasize that building political power for animals, something that isn't often, discussed. So what does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah, so like I think the very first thing that I was participate in terms of advocacy was like the San Diego Rodeo came into town in San Diego in Petco Park, which is like downtown central, came in 2023 January. So that was one of the very first thing I was involved with. So I was involved in trying to get our city council members to basically put a ban on, like a legislative ban. That was one of the very first things I did as an animal advocate. So I met with all these staff of all the 9 city council members that are there. And what I quickly realized is that sometimes it's too late when you don't have a relationship with these politicians. You haven't helped them get elected. You don't have any kind of relationship. So that kind of got me thinking about more like, how do we step back and kind of work from the beginning? And to answer your question, I think the short answer really is, I realized at that point, we need to try to get people more politically active, basically, because people want to help, but they don't know who to vote for. They don't know which candidates to support. And so I think there's a couple of aspects of it. One, as you seen in my Action for Animals app, one of the advantages of that, it kind of helps you understand who your representatives are, both locally and at the federal level. So one of the ideas, obviously, is to try to get people understanding who are representing them, who to vote for. So through Action for Animals, and then also we, for example, endorse candidates at this point, especially at the local level for city council and stuff like that. So we send questionnaires to candidates about animal issues that they would support. And the ones that support all of them, we kind of endorse and kind of say, hey, this is the person you should be voting for. So we do that as well. And the other part of it is to build relationships with these candidates before they end up in the office, or even if they're in the office, kind of build long-term relationships with them and let them know that we're here for the long term, not when there's a crisis, like a rodeo comes into town, but we want to develop a long-term relationship so they know us and they can help us in the future. And they know that we represent a lot of people in the community, basically, so they're more apt to listen to us. I don't know if that I answered your full question.
You did. I appreciate the political angle because I think sometimes it can be overlooked, and yet it's essential. We need to take our personal will and agenda and put it in with the people that are speaking for us collectively.
For sure.
Sometimes I think people think, oh, I can't influence that. That's already done. But as you've pointed out, they're basically just there to represent us.
Yeah.
I know I've used your app, and I want to talk about how you developed it and what's so great about it. And what I find is that while I have several places where I'll get an email and it'll say, send this letter, and I do that. But what I loved about your app, Amit, is it shows me all the different policy things that are up right now and who I can actually influence.
Right.
It will tell me it's like that particular representative is not in play on this particular issue. So you move on to the next one.
Right.
Is this app something that you talk local? Like, I appreciate that you're in San Diego, but I live in Nevada, and so it's working for me. Does it work nationwide at this point? Are you still
Yeah, it works.
developing that?
Yeah, it works for all of US. So we have most of the issues we have are federal issues right now on the app, but we do have some local issues as well. So it will, if you do, right now there's no local issues in Nevada, but it can work all the way up to city level issues, basically. So we do have some city level issues. For example, like Portland is doing a foie gras ban with Pro Animal Future and them at the city level. So we do have something at the city level where people can email their mayor, email their city council if you're a Portland resident. So those will show up. So it has the capacity to basically do it all the way from federal to city level, but it obviously won't show up. Portland issues won't show up for Nevada residents. So it's smart enough to say your location is this. I'm only going to pull up the issues that are relevant to you, basically. Yeah, so that's kind of how it works.
Well, many advocates focus on lifestyle change or awareness, but you focus on systems and policy instead. And I think that's such a valuable tranche of our movement. And I'm wondering, if you could give some other examples in addition to like the rodeo and the foie gras issue that you just mentioned. What other actions are out there right now?
Yeah, so the Action for Animals, the big one right now is really the Farm Bill, which I think everybody's working on at this point. So that's our main focus because the Farm Bill has a provision called Save Our Bacon Act, which would strip away animal welfare laws in places like it strip away a lot of laws, but basically what they're trying to target is the laws in California and Massachusetts, which which today both of those states have minimum space requirements for farmed animals, and they're trying to the pork industry is trying to strip those away. That provision passed the House side of the Farm Bill, so it's very scary. Right now, it's in the Senate. There is some good news in the Senate that they're not going to add this provision, but it's a very scary time for farmed animals, especially pigs, to strip away these laws. So that's like the main issue. And obviously, there's other federal issues on there, but that's really the main issue that we are really focused on and are trying to keep updated and asking people to call their senators for that issue. But it seems like it's really great to see all the animal advocates, even people who are not vegan, are calling their senators to try to get this thing off the Farm Bill, basically.
What do you think some of the biggest barriers to passing meaningful animal welfare legislation are?
That's a really tough question. Well, obviously, if you were trying to pass farmed animal legislation, the biggest barrier is that people eat eat meat. I think you can pass welfare laws, uh, you know, fairly, I mean, I wouldn't say fairly easily, but that's something that can be passed. It's just really hard to pass any type of, I guess, farmed animal laws just because a lot of people eat meat. Then the animal agriculture industry is really powerful. They have a lot of money. The third part of it is I don't think as us animal advocates, we've put in the time and effort really to build our infrastructure, our structure to affect politicians, to affect policy. And I feel like that's something that we can do because at the end of the day, um, everybody loves animals, whether I think most majority of the people do love animals. And it's on us to try to figure out how we can influence our industries and our systems so that we can put stronger protections in for animals. So I think we're still, I'm not an OG activist, but I feel like that's something that needs a lot of work. And I think it'll take years of work to build the infrastructure for us to kind of have more of an impact to pass these laws.
You're listening to Better Life for Animals podcast. Our mission is to amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. First of all, go ahead and subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching or listening. And then get involved by visiting betterlifeforanimals.com. That's betterlifeforanimals.com. Be sure to check out our blog, learn more about incredible sanctuaries, and explore our book section, where 100% of net proceeds from book sales are donated to sanctuaries. Every action you take helps to make a difference. And remember, subscribe to this channel. And now, back to the show.
If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Amit Dhuleshia, and he is with Strategic Action for Animals. Amit, can you explain the idea of distributed advocacy and why it's so powerful?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one, we don't have a lot of money compared to kind of the animal agriculture industry. We do have people power. And there's a lot of people that I know are passionate about animal advocacy, just don't know what to do. Like, how do they make an impact? What campaigns do they work on? So in order for us to succeed, I think, is we can't have like big organizations because that requires a lot of money, it requires a lot of organization. What I think we do have is kind of the people power. So what I think we need to do is we need to have kind of the grassroots organizations that are around the country be effective. And what I mean by effective is people want to do stuff, but they just don't know how. So our idea is really to try to create models that can be easily replicated without us being involved in any part of it.
I mean, how can smaller organizations or individuals replicate the kind of campaigns that SXFA is running without large budgets?
Yeah, I think that's a goal of ours, and I don't think we've reached that goal. But so what we're trying to do is document kind of the strategies that we've done, and try to do a pilot program with some other organizations that may be interested in it. So our goal really is to try to do some successful, and we've kind of succeeded in a couple of places, but I don't think we're at the place where we want to be. What we want to do is have some of the successes and then document this and then have a pilot program with one or two grassroots organizations that would be willing to be interested in some of these things that we're doing. So that's like our longer term vision. For example, we've done just recently, we did a ballot initiative in a local city. So kind of the ballot initiatives you see around some of the bigger organizations like Pro Animal Future, IP28, some of these bigger ones, they're doing it at a larger scale. But what we want to do is try to do it at a smaller scale, for example. So we do ballot initiatives because we don't, we're not really raising money or anything like that. We want to do something smaller. We're doing stuff at like that would require 400 signatures to get it on the ballot in a small city, or requires 1,500, something that's doable without a lot of money, and document all the steps that are required in, for example, in the city of California, and then say, here's what you can do. You can create your own law, find a smaller city that makes sense for you guys, and then kind of replicate it. And then our idea, for example, in terms of ballot initiative, is to pass like laws that could basically work, that and then that could be replicated around the country. So we just did banning the sale of birds in pet stores this past 4 or 5 months, where we got enough signatures to get it on the November ballot for a city here in San Diego called Lemon Grove. So we're hoping that model, that's one example of a model that can be replicated around California cities, and people can come up with their own laws. So that's kind of our goal. And we have other things that we're working on, but that's kind of the idea going forward.
So you're using your local San Diego area as sort of a test case. This is how we did it. These are the steps. Here are our results. Here are our hurdles. And you can take this to your city and replicate it.
Exactly. And I think the first steps we're going to document. Once we get some success, we'll document everything. And then, yeah, here's all the things that you will need. Here's some, exactly as you said, here's some roadblocks. Here's how much money you may need, for example. And here's where you could get funding from these types of organizations that would fund something like this, basically, since it's so targeted. So that's kind of the idea behind it.
Have you had municipalities reach out to you, or are you targeting them? Are you in conversations?
I always have people reach out to me when we do have some kind of success. Like, for example, we had some success with some of the corporate sponsors of the rodeo drop their corporate sponsorship. So people did reach out to me and be like, hey, how did you do this? Can I do this in my local city? So yeah, people do reach out to me, but I haven't reached out to anybody yet because I don't feel like some of these models are completely defined. So either people reach out to me, but yeah, I do have plans especially for like some of the retail sales ban of animals in pet stores, to start reaching out to other organizations in California that might be interested in doing like a smaller version of what we're doing here in Lemon Grove.
Have you seen a shift in your short time of working this with politicians and how they respond to animal welfare in recent years? Do you see an improvement?
Well, I've seen a recent improvement, I guess, in the last like 5 months. I feel like there's a turn in the momentum, and I haven't been doing this for long. We just had the Beagle rescue thing that got national attention. The Farm Bill has brought everybody together, which is amazing to see. Like all the organizations, people are calling. Everybody's taking their little action to try to get this thing. So I think there's right now a tide against corporate power, against political power, like entrenched political power, that's lifting. I feel like we have an opportunity to be part of that, like lift, where people are kind of sick of the corporations controlling kind of things in this country. And I feel like animal welfare, animal protection is kind of going to be part of that pushback. And you've seen it like also with animal testing, right? Both sides of the aisle are supportive of trying to get rid of animal testing. I know, with the Ridgeland, it's kind of dogs. But the current administration has been pretty good against animal testing. So you do see some of these things that I feel like there is, over the next couple of years, I think we really have an opportunity to actually make a lot of headway, which I didn't see up until this year, basically.
Farmed animals are a major focus of your work. So where do you see the greatest opportunity for reducing suffering of scale?
Yeah, and that's something, initially when we started in 2023, we were mostly focused on non-farmed animal because it's really hard to make change for farmed animals when you're in San Diego, right? So most of our stuff was around, as you can see, around entertainment, like rodeo, retail sales banned, trying to get fireworks to be banned. But we were trying to build the infrastructure to see like uh, how can we affect farm animals. So the latest stuff that obviously that I already talked about is basically been focused for the last year and a half on the farm bill. I know right now it seems like the farm bill is just coming, but we've been following it since for a long time to try to make sure that the farm bill doesn't have the Save Our Bacon um, um, act in it. So to get back to your question, I think one is to prevent to keep the animal welfare laws that we have, and then kind of build on the animal welfare laws that we already have. Like, for example, California has Proposition 12, which has minimum space requirements. But I feel like we can build on top of those laws that are already there to add more animal welfare requirements. Both, you can pass laws. Um, and I do see other groups around this country trying to get wins around, fur farming. Foie gras is a big topic. Obviously, in San Diego and California, we already ban all those things. So I think for us, the bigger thing right now that we're focused on is on the farm bill, and we're also looking at like exotic skins, like leather. Basically, we're doing research on seeing if we can move that even further to ban feathers from animals and things like that. So like trying to push the boundaries a little bit more than where it is currently in the U.S. So that's kind of going to be our focus going forward. But it's a really hard space to kind of crack.
Well, you're doing it though. I love your app. Like I said, why don't you talk more about your app? Because I think there is your opportunity to get people engaged and then keep them.
For sure. Yeah. So the idea of the app actually came from what I don't know if you know that there's this app, which this app is based off. It's called Five Calls. So Five Calls is it's exactly the same app, but it's a left-leaning uh, uh, app that talks about human issues basically, and it has the same actual kind of thing where it's mostly focused on political stuff, but basically it has a list of actions. You can click on it and you can call your politicians on, you know, basically left-leaning issues. So I actually reached out to Five Calls last year, and I was like, "Hey, can you add the farm bill to this as one of the issues, as an animal welfare issue, basically?" And they took the feedback in, but then they didn't add it. So then I was like, "Well, they're mostly going to be focused on human issues. Um, why don't we create our own app that just focus on animal issues, and we can and Five Calls is an open source. It's an open source app, meaning the code is available for anybody to use." So at that time, my niece and nephew they're kind of high school, college aged. So they were going into their summer and they needed kind of like an internship. And both me and my sister have software experience or background. So I said, okay, we're going to build this app, and I'm going to ask my niece and nephew to build the first version of it with guidance, basically. So the idea of the app is to basically make it super easy for people to take actions. I think as animal advocates, sometimes we are like, well, why aren't more people protesting? Why aren't more people doing this? But like people are busy, right? They're trying to keep food on the table, so they don't have all this time, even though they want to help animals. So the idea of the app is to take quick, easy actions. That might be just a phone call. Right now, it's just a phone call or an email that can help animals, basically, and keeps everything in one place, who you contacted, and it has a little gamification aspect of it so that when you do click on it, you get some, how many animals saved, to try to keep people like engaged and motivated, basically. And the idea, as I talked about before, is to try to get people to understand who represents them Like, who are your senators? Who are your House of Representatives? Who are your state senators or assembly members? So people can start understanding who's supposed to represent them, because I think most people don't know. And it gives people a sense of like, okay, I'm doing something. And we try to focus on actions that can really make an impact. Our goal, we're not trying to get money. We're not trying to get donations or anything like that, because we're basically self-funded at this point, and we're not trying to become a big organization. So our really focus is just to make sure that when people do spend their time, they're actually going to do something that actually moves the needle for animals, basically. So getting back to it, so we built the first version. My niece and nephew built the first version of it. They went back to college, and then I took it over and started building the rest of it. And we released it last year, and we're slowly trying to get more and more. Most of our users are local, but we're trying to get more and more people to use the app and obviously keep it updated. And our goal in the future is to start adding more things to the app. For example, as we get more users, our goal is to, as we talked about, is to start having recommendations as people run for, as elections come. Who are we recommending that they should vote for, basically based just on animal issues, to try to get people to understand, like, okay, try to get these people in office who will represent animals, basically. So that's like our future thought process. And if we can get thousands and thousands of users who are using the app, then I think we've built something. We've built something that can really have an impact when some of these like big issues like the Farm Bill come. It's just easy for people to just make a quick call and try to move the needle. And I think that's what's going to move the needle. If all of us are taking a little bit of actions, we're all together in this and doing something to kind of elevate animals for the better.
Well, congratulations, because it's such a needed app in today's world where everything is an app. And I hear what you're saying. I can see 5 years from now that we all will be using it to go to find out what's going on politically and how we can step in. It's such a great feature that I'm so happy to know you and that you put this together for us. Why don't you, give us a little ad here. Tell us how we can all find it. Tell us how we can all sign up.
Yeah, it's super easy. So the app is available both on Google and Apple. You just type in Action for Animals, and it should come up, and you just download it. When you download it, the only thing they'll ask you is your location. Where are you? Basically, that's needed to pull up kind of your campaigns. Most of them are political campaigns, so most of them are federal issues. So it'll pull up kind of who your representatives are, your senators and House of Representatives. But on Apple, you can also see who your local representatives are as well. So if you live in San Diego, you might have local issues. If you live in Portland, so it'll pull all that information up, and then, yeah, you just click on the campaign. There's a little summary of what the campaign looks like, and then you can click on your politician or whoever it may be. You can either send an email, and most of the federal ones are you just make a quick call with a little script that's there, basically to help you kind of guide what you would say to the person that answers the phone, basically. So yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, it's a one-stop shop. I can't recommend it enough. And for those who are out there wanting to replicate some of the good work that you're doing, Amit, how do they find you and how do they support you?
Yeah, so you can go on Strategic Action for Animals. Most of the stuff that we post is on our Instagram. Okay. So it's SXFA, which is the initials. The A is an X. SXFA.org on Instagram, basically. So I usually try to keep that updated with kind of the stuff and any updates that we're working on. You can just DM me there, and I will get back to you. Yeah, the goal obviously is not for our organization to grow big. It's more to how do we create these models that other organizations can maybe leverage, that we can kind of spread around the world, around the country at this point, basically.
Excellent. For those of you who have been enjoying my conversation as I have today with Amit Dhuleshia of Strategic Action for Animals, I hope you will like and subscribe this podcast so that we all can create a better life for animals.
Thank you for joining us on the Better Life for Animals podcast. Together, we can create a world where all beings are treated with dignity, respect, and care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more people and spread awareness about the incredible work happening in animal sanctuaries. You can also share this episode with friends and fellow advocates to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep speaking up, taking action, and making a difference for the animals.